Next discussion would be cost of goods manufactured. A while ago, we have already prepared the income statement. Diba? Ito yun. Meron na tayo kaninang income statement. Right? Here, in the income statement or statement of comprehensive income, we have computed the net sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expenses, and the profit. Now, let's go to cost of goods manufactured schedule. Before we computed for the cost of goods sold, di ba nagamit natin yung cost of goods manufactured? Because how do you compute for cost of goods sold? You have there finished goods beginning plus cost of goods manufactured is equal to cost of goods available for sale. Less finished goods and that would be your cost of goods sold. Ibig sabihin, yung mga cost of goods manufactured, yan yung mga finished goods mo for the period. Finished goods beginning, ibig sabihin at the end of the period last year, may mga natira na na-produce natin na hindi na ibenta. Kaya at the beginning of next year, we have finished goods beginning. And the cost of goods manufactured, these are the goods which are manufactured for the period. This is the cost of the goods finished or produced during the period. And if you're going to add both of that, you will get cost of goods available for sale. Yan yung mga pwede natin ibenta sa labas or sa mga customers. Less, ito na lang daw yung natira, finished goods ends. Sa lahat ng mga na-produce during the period at yung mga finished goods at the beginning of the period, ito na lang daw yung natira at the end of the period. So, what happened to the difference? Yun yung mga naibenta, yun yung mga cost of goods sold. So, in T account, ganito siya. Finished goods, beginning balance, 46,000 plus cost of goods manufactured. Addition yan sa finished goods kasi yan yung mga manufactured during the period. Kung ang ending balance mo daw ay 76,500, ibig sabihin may nawawala, di ba? Ito yung mga finished goods mo during the period. Tapos ito na lang yung ending mo. Ano nangyari sa nawala? That is the cost of goods sold. Yan yung mga naibenta. So if you want to work back to compute for the cost of goods sold, mag-start ka sa ending balance less CGM, cost of goods manufactured, less beginning balance. Yan yung 511, 540. Yan din yon. Okay? Pwede din naman, hindi ka mag-work back. Start ka dun sa dalawa. Beginning balance plus cost of goods manufactured less ending balance finished goods. You'll get cost of goods sold. Ito din yon. Okay? So, never mind pag nag-work ba kayo, never mind the positive or negative. As long as nasa credit side siya, alam mo na yan ay deduction. Okay? Cost of goods sold. Ngayon, itong cost of goods manufactured, nagamit natin yan. Diba? Dito sa cost of goods sold. Paano naman yan po kinompute? Kaya gagawa tayo ng cost of goods manufactured schedule. Okay. Now here, cost of goods manufactured, I have already prepared in advance so that it will be easier for us to refer or take a look at the cost of goods manufactured schedule. Now, let's go back to the cost of goods manufactured. Diba? We have discussed, this is the formula. Raw materials used plus direct labor plus factory overhead. That's your total manufacturing cost. Or yan yung mga cost ng nilagay sa production during the period. Yung mga nagamit na raw materials, yung mga direct labor yung mga labor na iginugol para magawa yung mga bagay-bagay, yung factory overhead or yung indirect materials, indirect labor, and other overhead expenses. Pag pinagsama mo yung tatlo na yan yung total manufacturing cost. Yan yung mga total ng cost na nilagay sa production during the period. Siyempre, meron din tayong work in process beginning. So, total manufacturing cost for the period. During the period. Plus, meron kasi tayong mga work in process beginning. Yan yung mga goods in process na natira last period. Diba, meron tayong mga nilalagay sa production. We place goods into production so that we can they can be produced or converted into finished goods. Pero at the end of the period, may mga natira, hindi natapos. Yan ngayon yung work in process end last period. And if there is a new period or calendar year, that would be your work in process beginning. Your work in process end for the last period would be your work in process beginning for the new period. So, pag isasama mo yung yung mga hindi na natapos last year, yan yung work in process beginning mo, plus yung mga goods in process or yung mga nilagay sa production during the year, that would be your total cost of goods placed or put in production. Yan yung total cost ng lahat ng mga nilagay natin sa production for the year. Tapos, at the end of the period, ito na lang daw yung mga hindi natapos. Yung work in process end, ganito na lang. So, ibig sabihin, what is the difference? Kung meron tayong total goods placed in production during the year or period, pero ganito na lang daw yung work in process end, ito na lang daw yung natira, mga hindi pa tapos, ano nangyari sa difference? Yun yung mga cost of goods manufactured, yun yung mga natapos, yung mga cost of goods which are manufactured or produced during the period. So, ulit ha, yung tatlo na yan, raw materials used, direct labor, factory overhead, those are your total manufacturing cost, the cost of manufacturing during the year. Plus, meron yung mga hindi natapos last period, that is your work in process beginning. So, pag pinag-add mo yung work in process beginning plus total manufacturing cost during the period, that is the total goods placed or put in production. Yun yung mga ginawa, yun yung mga cost ng mga ginagawa during the period, during the year. Pero at the end of the period, konti na lang yung natira na hindi nagawa. Yan yung work in process end. So, ano yung difference? Saan napunta? Bakit ito yung nakalagay sa production? Ito yung gusto mong gawin or gusto mong matapos during the period. That is the total goods placed or put in production during or for the whole year. For the whole year. Pero at the end of the period, ito na lang daw yung hindi natatapos or hindi pa nagagawang goods. Ano nangyari dun sa difference? That is your cost of goods manufactured. Yun yung mga nagawa na mga finished goods during the period. Okay? Total manufacturing cost, that is the work in process during the period. And yung work in process beginning, yan yung work in process na natira last period. Pag pinagsama mo yung dalawa na yan, that is the total goods placed in, or put in production for the period. Okay? Yung during the period plus yung at the beginning of the period, yan yung mga total goods placed in production or for the period. Okay? Less work in process and cost of goods manufactured. Ito yung mga nagawa or na-produce during the period. Plus finished goods beginning, yan yung mga goods na natapos last period at hindi na-ibenta last period, so may mga natira, yan yung finished goods beginning. So, pag pinagsama mo yung mga nagawa during the period, cost of goods manufactured, the goods which are manufactured during the period, plus the finished goods or the goods at the beginning, yun yung mga pwede mong ibenta sa customers. That is your cost of goods available for sale. Sabi, ito na lang yung natira, finished goods end. Of all the cost of goods manufactured and beginning finished goods, yung mga cost of goods available for sale mo, ito na lang daw yung natira. So, ano yung nangyari sa difference? If this is the cost of goods available for sale, and then this is your finished goods at the end, ito yung mga natira, ano nangyari sa difference? That is your cost of goods sold, yun yung mga naibenta. Okay? So, you just have to familiarize yourselves with this formula. Cost of goods manufactured is equal to your total manufacturing cost plus work in process beginning less work in process and cost of goods manufactured. And of course, raw materials used. Pag sinabi mong raw materials used, yan yung mga cost ng raw materials na nilagay mo into production. Diba? Yung mga nagamit. So, hindi yung raw materials beginning. Hindi din yung raw materials end. Dapat yung raw materials placed into production or used during the period. And how are you going to compute for that? Raw materials beginning plus your net purchases, yan yung raw materials available for production. meron kang materials at the beginning of the period, bumili ka pa during the period, net purchases. Yan yung mga pwede mong magamit for production during the year. Okay? Yan yung raw materials available for production. Pero, ito na lang daw yung natira. Diba? Meron kang beginning inventory plus purchases, bumili ka. Yan yung pwede mong magamit for production. Pero at the end of the period, ito na lang yung natira, raw materials in. Anong nangyari sa nawala? Yun yung raw materials used. Yan yung ina-add natin sa total manufacturing cost. Remember, pag cost of goods manufactured at saka sa total manufacturing cost, yung raw materials lang na nagamit ang ina-add natin. Siyempre, kung ilan yung nagamit for production. Okay. Now, net purchases, pareho lang ito doon sa merchandising. Purchases plus freight in, less purchase discounts and allowances, less purchase returns is equal to your net purchases. Okay? So, that is how you compute for raw materials used. And you'll add your direct labor, factory overhead. So, ito, class, pinalitan ko lang yung order niya. Ito din yun. Same lang dyan sa naka-yellow na highlight. How do you compute for cost of goods manufactured? Work in process beginning plus total manufacturing costs. Yan yung cost ng mga nilagay into production during the period. So, total goods placed in production. Yung dalawa. Ito kasi at the beginning. Tapos ito during the period. So, total goods placed or put in production for the period. Yan yung dalawa. Less work in process, you get your less work in process and you get your cost of goods manufactured. And class, itong mga cost of goods manufactured na yan, yung mga manufacture or nagawa during the period. Diba? Kaya, i-add natin yan ngayon sa finished goods. Meron tayong finished goods beginning. Yan yung mga hindi na ibenta last period, kaya may natira pa. Finished goods beginning. Plus yung mga nagawa ngayong period. Cost of goods manufactured. Yan yung finished goods mo during the period. Ito yung finished goods mo at the beginning of the year plus finished goods during the period. Yan yung cost of goods available for sale. Yan yung pwede mong ibenta sa customers. Less, ito na lang daw yung natira at the end of the period. Kung ito yung pwede pa natin ibenta sa customers for the period or for the year, pero ito yung natira at the end of the period, anong nangyari sa nawala? Yun yung mga naibenta. Cost of goods sold. Okay, so let's just copy this cost of goods manufactured, this formula, into our cost of goods manufactured schedule. So, here, cost of goods manufactured, paulit-ulit, dapat memorize yun na, raw materials used, plus direct labor, plus factory overhead, total manufacturing cost, plus work in process beginning, is equal to total goods placed or put in production. Less work in process, and you'll get your cost of goods manufactured. So, raw materials used muna tayo. How do you compute for raw materials used? Of course, raw materials beginning plus net purchases. Okay? Magkano yung raw materials beginning? 52,000 to 52,800. Saan natin kinuha yan? Dito sa worksheet natin. Raw materials beginning. Diba ito yung raw materials inventory? Unadjusted balance. Ito yun. 52,800. Ito yung beginning balance. Remember, dito sa cost of goods manufactured, na worksheet, meron na tayo actually computed cost of goods manufactured. Dinebit natin yung ending balance, kinredit natin yung beginning balance. So, balik tayo dito. Raw materials beginning, 50,800. Then, purchases, add freight in, less purchase discounts, less purchase returns, and allowances. Yan yung net purchases natin. Net purchases. Ibig sabihin, how do you get for net purchases? Purchases plus freight in, less purchase discounts, less purchase returns, and allowances. Ito yan. So, where did I get these amounts? Nandito yan sa worksheet natin. Okay, purchases. Ayun. So, purchases. Dito tayo sa adjusted trial balance. Purchases, 266,800. Purchase discounts, 87. And then, purchase returns and allowances, 65. Freight in, 12,000 pesos. Okay? Yan. So, ito yan. And, pag-add mo yung raw materials beginning, plus yung net purchases mo na 263,600, that would be your raw materials available for production for the period or for the year. And how much is our raw materials and 48,600. Saan nakuha yan? Dito, sa taas. Raw materials, inventory, and 48,600. Yun din yung given sa book. Okay? 48,600. So, anong gagawin dito? I-deduct. Okay? So, lagyan natin dito para hindi kayo malito. Add net purchases, which is yung ito. And then, less raw materials, and that would be raw materials used. Yan yung 267,800. Okay, pwede din namang T account. T account, ganito. Raw materials, beginning balance, plus purchases, plus freight in, less purchase discounts, less purchase returns and allowances, less raw materials used, is equal to ending balance raw materials. So, nag-work back tayo kanina. Okay, tanggalin natin yan. Okay? Diba? Sabi, given beginning balance 52,800. Tapos, given din yung net purchases mo. Ito na daw yung ending balance mo. Ibig sabihin, may nawala. Raw materials used. Ilan yung nagamit? Work back tayo. Pag nag-work back ka, ending balance, less purchase returns and add pala kasi babalik ta rin, diba? Pag work back, add purchase returns allowances, add purchase discount, less freight in, less purchases, less beginning balance, you get 267,800. Pero tanggalin na natin yung pagiging negative niya, absolute value na lang natin. Kasi given naman na kapag siya ay nasa credit side, that is a deduction to raw materials. Okay, so yan din yun. Okay? You may choose whether to use this. Kung mas komportable kayo na ganitong pagkakakompute, kung mas komportable naman kayo mag-T account, okay lang. Whichever you want. So, we have na raw materials use. Ano na lang next? Direct labor. Saan natin nakuha yung direct labor? Doon sa adjusted balance ni direct labor sa worksheet. Remember, we have direct labor, unadjusted, plus yung adjustment natin na meron pa daw unpaid na direct labor. Kaya meron tayong 122,100. Ano pa? Factory overhead. Okay? Ano man yung factory overhead? Ito yan. Kinompute natin. Ano ulit yung kasama sa factory overhead? Indirect materials, indirect labor, and other overhead expenses. Tapos pag napansin nyo, meron tayong notes dito. Hindi ito yung totoong paggamit ng notes to financial statements. Sa formal na notes to financial statements, isa lang ang notes. Dire-diretso yun, chronological, from note 1 hanggang sa matapos for all the financial statements. Dito kasi, mapapansin nyo sa ginawa natin, magkakahiwalay. May notes kay income statement, may notes kay cost of goods manufactured, may notes din mamaya sa balance sheet. So, kaya natin ginawa, pinaghiwalay-hiwalay natin. May note 1 dito sa kabila, may note 1 din dito, kasi para madali nating makita. Pero pag gumawa na kayo ng sarili nyong financial statements in the future, isang notes to financial statements lang, so dire-diretso, note 1, note 2, note 3, hindi pwede mag-ulit-ulit ng note. Okay? Isang notes to financial statements for all the financial statements. Dito kasi ginagawa natin, iba-iba yung notes per financial statement. Pero okay lang yun, kasi ito, ano lang naman, for simplicity purposes. But if you go to your higher accounting, you will learn na isa lang dapat ang notes to financial statements for all the financial statements. So, dapat ko ito, kaya pag nakita nyo sa book, meron note 11 na dun sa income statement, diba? Note 11, note 12, kasi dire-diretso yun. Okay? Now, let's go back to the note 2. Factory overhead. Again, what is the composition of factory overhead? Indirect materials, indirect labor, and overhead. Kaya nilagay na natin dito. Ano yung indirect materials natin dito? We did not use the raw materials account. But we have separated it and we used factory supplies expense. Remember, the amount that should be included in the factory overhead should be the indirect materials used. Hindi yung indirect materials ending balance. Kung ilan lang yung nagamit into production, kasi ang kinocompute natin, magkano ba yung cost ng production? Diba? Kaya yung expense yung kinuha natin. And that is 6,900. Saan ba yan makikita? Nandito yan sa adjusted balance. 6,900. Ito, factory supplies expense. Diba? Okay. Next, indirect labor. Nasa adjusted balance din yan, yung indirect labor. Dito, indirect labor. Ayun, indirect labor, 45,600. Indirect ha, dahil pag direct labor, separate yan, hindi yan kasama sa factory overhead. And then, other overhead expenses, yun yung mga other expenses which are incurred in the production such as heat, light and power, factory insurance expense, repairs and maintenance, miscellaneous factory expense, depreciation expense for machinery. Yung depreciation expense for machinery, that is a factory overhead because the machinery is used in the production of the goods. That's why the depreciation expense is attributable to factory overhead. Expenses mo yan for your production. And we totaled it, so we got 159,740. Ito yung mga yan, andito yan. Ayun, sa worksheet natin. Yan, heat, light, and power, factory insurance expense, repairs and expense. Yan. Itong mga to naman, di ba? Na-compute na natin yan, nagamit na natin yan sa income statement. Yung mga yan, these are general and administrative expenses and or selling or distribution expenses. Okay? So, we now have your factory overhead, 159,740. Ito yung amount na yan. And we totaled that. So, we got the total manufacturing cost during the period. Yan yung mga cost ng mga mga nilagay sa production during the period, 549,640. Plus the work in process beginning. Ito yung mga natirang hindi pa natatapos na goods during the period. Yun yung mga placed into production but are not yet finished at the end of the period last year. So, yan yung work in process beginning natin. So, the total would be total goods placed or put in production, 588,240 for the period. Total manufacturing cost during the period plus work in process at the beginning of the period. This is the total goods placed or put in production for the period. Less work in process, and ito na lang daw yung natira sa work in process. Ito na lang daw yung mga hindi pa natatapos at the end. Out of all na nilagay sa production na 588,240, out of all na mga nilagay sa production, ito na lang daw ang natira. Kaya ano yung nangyari sa difference? Yun yung mga na-manufacture na. These are the cost of goods manufactured. These are your finished goods. Those are the goods which are produced or finished during the year. Cost of goods manufactured. Okay? Yan. So, pwede din naman, class, itong work in process. Diba, meron tayong T account sa raw materials kanina? Ito din yon. Kung gusto nyo namang madalian kayo sa work in process, kung ayaw nyo ng ganitong formula, or ito, diba meron tayong formula for work in process? Ito. Copy-paste ko nga dun para makita ninyo. Nilagay ko dito, ha? Points to remember. Yan. You have to remember this. This is how to compute for raw materials used. This is how to compute for cost of goods manufactured. This is how you compute for cost of goods sold. So, actually, itong work in process, pwede mo din naman yan ma-compute using this. Work in process. Yung cost of goods manufactured, you can compute that using this formula, or you can compute that using the T account. Pag T account, work in process, beginning balance, work in process, tapos, yung tatlo, yung raw materials used, direct labor, factory overhead, nilalagay kasi yan sa production, di ba? Kaya naalala nyo yung entry, debit, work in process, credit, raw materials. Debit, work in process, credit, cash or accounts payable for direct labor. Or kung gumagamit ng direct labor na account, debit, direct labor, credit, cash or accounts payable. And factory overhead, pag in-apply na yung factory overhead into production, debit work in process, credit factory overhead. So, these three are really additions to the work in process. Kaya kung gusto niya i-account, pwede naman yan. Beginning balance, plus raw materials used, plus direct labor, plus factory overhead. Remember, pag factory overhead, indirect materials, indirect labor, and other overhead expenses. And less cost of goods manufactured, this will be your ending balance work in process. Yan. Kaya yung cost of goods manufactured, nakuha ko yan by work back. Okay? Tapos kunwari, ang given lang sa problem, beginning balance work in process, then ending balance work in process. Tapos ito yung total manufacturing cost. Total manufacturing cost. How do you get for your cost of goods manufactured? Work back ka, ending balance, less factory overhead, less direct labor, less raw materials, less beginning balance, 542,040. Ito din yun. Okay? Yan din. Yun. Tanggalin na natin yung negative, ha? Kasi, absolute value na lang. Given naman, pagka nasa credit side siya, deduction siya. So, no need for negative. Okay, turo natin to. Yun. Cost of goods manufactured. Yan. Okay? Yan siya. Taas natin ng slide kasi yan. So, ayan siya. Okay? Pwede din ganito. Para simple. Ay, wala. Work in process. Dito ka na lang ilagay. Bahala na kayo dyan pagka nireview nyo to, ha. Kayo na mag-adjust dito sa ay okay. Yan. Pwede din na work in process ay pwede din kasi ganito. Ayan. Pwede din ganda. Work in process beginning plus total manufacturing cost. Kung given sa problem, kahit hindi mo na isa-isa yan, less cost of goods manufactured is equal to beginning balance work in process plus total manufacturing cost, yung total ng tatlo, kunin natin dito. And then, less cost of goods manufactured, you will get work in process and magkano yung ending balance? Ending balance is 46,200. Work back na natin. Less. Ayan. So, gawin natin yung absolute value. Same lang naman sila, diba? Same lang po sila. Okay. Ayan. Okay, so kayo na bahala kung ano yung mas komportable kayo. Okay? So, alam niyo TMC, total manufacturing cost yan. Okay? Ngayon, ito pa. Gawa naman tayo. Paano pag finished goods naman? Ito yung, actually, ito din yung finished goods. Yan. Pag cost of goods sold naman ang hinahanap, ito naman yung T account. Ang gulo, sakit sa mata. Ay, naku, nakakaduling. Sorry. Ayan. So, actually, itong tatlong T account na yan, magkakadugtong yan. Kasi ano yung, kung ano yung cost of goods manufactured mo, yun yung addition mo sa finished goods. Finished goods beginning, magkano? This is, punta tayo sa income statement. Kopyahin ko na lang dito. Yan. Yung cost of goods manufactured mo, tatanggalin mo sa work in process. Yan yung i-add mo sa finished goods. Then, less cost of goods sold is equal to your ending finished goods. Yan. Okay? So, to work back, ending finished goods less cost of goods manufactured less beginning balance finished goods. Okay. So, ito din yung ito ngayon yung cost of goods sold natin. 511 40. So, magkakadikit-dikit ito, class, no? Tingnan nyo. Raw materials used. Yung raw materials used, saan napunta? Napunta yan dito sa work in process. Ba? Work in process. Ngayon, yung cost of goods manufactured, yan yung mga natapos na goods. Yun yung mga finished goods sa mga ginawa sa buong period ay yan yung finished goods mo. Yan, addition yan sa finished goods mo this year. Kasi, the cost of goods manufactured is a deduction to the work in process, but it is an addition to your finished goods. Bakit tatanggalin sa work in process? Nagawa na nga eh. Cost of goods manufactured, finished na yan. Tanggalin sa work in process, idagdag mo sa finished goods. Yung cost of goods sold, yan ay naibenta, tanggalin mo sa finished goods. Hindi na siya finished goods, naibenta na siya. Okay? So, dito naman sa raw materials, tanggalin mo yung raw materials used. Hindi na siya raw materials, ilalagay na siya sa work in process. Okay? So, clear ba yun? I hope it's clear. Okay? Just take a look at this. You have to be familiar with this. If you forget about it, just take a look and then you review. Okay? Na, last na. Gawa naman tayo ng balance sheet. Balance sheet and statement of changes in equity. Ano tayo dito? Balance sheet. Okay, konti lang naman eh. We're almost done. Kapehin ko na lang to. Balance sheet naman tayo. Ayan. Okay. Ay! Copy. Paste. Okay. Then, sagot tayong problems mamaya. Okay. Tayo natin ito. Statement of financial position. As of, pag balance sheet as of, pag income statement for the period ended, pati kay statement of changes in equity for the period ended. Pero pag balance sheet lang as of, kasi real accounts ito, Pag sabi mo as of, from the very beginning until now, yan yung balance. Okay? As of. Kasi real accounts, hindi nagko-close. Di ba pag income statement, iba-iba siya every period. Kaya for the period. Okay? So, December 31, 20, 40. Okay? Now, let's place here assets. So, meron na naman tayong trend. Huwag nyo na lang pong pansinin para tayo ay makakoncentrate. Okay? What are our assets? We have current assets. Ano nga ulit yung current assets? Klase yun yung mga we can recover within 1 year. Okay? Or they are liquid. They can be easily converted into cash. Or those which can be, or those whose economic benefits can be recovered or benefited. And I mean, can be used within 1 year or in one operating cycle. So, ano mga current assets natin? Cash. And then, marketable securities. Kanina, yung sa income statement, di ba, anong ginawa ko? Meron tayong long method, meron tayong short method. Ngayon, gagawin ko yung dire-diretso, yung mahaba. Mamaya na tayo mag-notes. Okay? Yung ano lang muna, yung natural lang, yung dire-diretso, lahat nakalagay. Tapos mamaya gawin natin yung may notes. Okay, hindi naman ang trend dito. Sorry Cash, marketable securities. Ano pa? Meron ba tayong accounts receivable? Yes. Pero yung accounts receivable natin ay lagay natin net. So, cash, marketable securities, accounts receivable, net. Then, so ang accounts receivable net natin ay accounts receivable and less allowance for bad debts. Then, lagyan natin yung bottom border. Ano pa? We have ano pa yung mga worksheet? Finished goods inventory, raw materials inventory, and goods in process inventory. Lahat yan, tatlo na yan, inventory yan. Okay? Finished goods inventory, work in process inventory, and raw materials inventory. Okay. Ano pa? Meron pa ba tayo? Wala na. Yung iba ay non-current assets na. So, total current assets. Magkano tong cash? We have cash is adjusted trial balance 10,000 pesos. Marketable securities. Magkano yung marketable securities? 22,480. Accounts receivable, how much? 38,000. And then accounts receivable, lagyan natin dito yung gross 38,000. And then allowance for bad debts 5,316. Diba? Magkano ngayon ang AR net? 38 less 5,316. 32,616. So we have 32,684. Then finished goods inventory and of course ending balance lang dito class ha. Ay, bakit ko ba dito kinukuha? Kunin natin pala dito sa meron tayong balance sheet column, di ba? Sa parang meron namang gamit dito. Yan, dito tayo. Okay ba? Dito tayo. Para magamit natin. Mabigyan natin siya ng hustisya. Okay. Then your AR natin ay palitan ko lang ha. Accounts receivable. Then AR net. Allowance for bad debts pala. Okay. So ito yung accounts receivable. Then finished goods inventory and 76,500. Goods in process. Magkano? 42. Raw materials inventory, how much? 48. And then meron pa tayo factory supplies inventory, di ba? Yung mga indirect materials. Kasama pa rin yun. Indirect na lang siya. Supplies inventory. Magkano yan? 1,400. So, yung next, mga land building, ano na yon? Yun ay non-current assets. So, magkano yung total ng current assets? Yan. And then, non-current assets. Non-current assets. Yung land building. Yung mga yan class ay property, plant, and equipment. So, sa building, ano pa ba yan? Land building. So, kunin natin yung building at cost. And then accumulated depreciation building. Okay, accumulated depreciation building. And then machinery net. Machinery cost. Accumulated depreciation. Copy ko to ha. Machinery. And then office equipment net. Natin. Cost. Ano pa? Office equipment. And then, wala na. No? Wala na yata. Okay, liabilities na. So, how much is our total non-current assets? Lagyan natin dito. Then, lagyan natin dito ng free spin. Review data. formula, page layout, nasaan na? Draw, insert, view, free spin. Unfreeze. Freeze frames. Unfreeze. Okay, so magkano yung land? 142. Building cost. Accumulated depreciation building. 104,400. Magkano ngayon ito? Less 255,600. Next, for machinery naman, ilan ang cost ng machinery? Machinery. And then, accumulated depreciation machinery. We have, okay, magkano ngayon ang net? So, pinapakita class, we present it at net carrying value, right? But, the cost is still there. 17,000. Okay. So, we have, tama ba yan? This is machinery. Magkano accumulated depreciation ng machinery? Machinery, 44 pala. 44. Yun, 77,260. And then, office equipment at cost. How much is the office equipment? 35,000. Accumulated depreciation is 9,700. Magkano ngayon ang net? 25,300. Magkano ang total non-current assets? Land, building, machinery, then office equipment. Ayan. Kaya meron tayong total non-current assets na 500, 160. How much is the total assets? Total assets would be current assets plus non-current assets 738,024. Okay? It's your assets. How about your liabilities and equity? Pwede yung diretso. Pag sinabi mo diretso, anong form yun? Report form. Kaya lang, medyo ano na siya, mahaba. So, paliitan natin. Hindi. Gagawin natin, dito naman sa kabila. Anong tawag doon? Account form naman. Pagka, di ba lagi natin ginagawa? Report form. Pababa. Gayahin natin yung sa book. Big sabihin, nasa left side si asset, nasa right side si liabilities and equity. Anong tawag mo doon? That is, this is account form. Dito naman si liabilities and equity. Liabilities and equity. Bakit account form? Kasi, nasa left side yung mga debit balances, nasa right side naman yung mga credit balances. Pero pag report form, dire-diretso lang kasi yan. Okay? Pag report form, dire-diretso lang. Ngayon natin para medyo maganda tingnan. Okay. Yeah. Liabilities and equity. Tawag dito ay account for liabilities naman tayo. Meron tayong current liabilities and non-current liabilities. Pero pag tinignan natin yung, diba, pag gumagawa kayo ng financial statements, merong non-current liabilities, may current liabilities. Pero pag tinignan natin yung worksheet, wala tayong ibang liabilities, kundi current liabilities lang. Ano lang meron? Dito na tayo ha. Accounts payable. Accounts payable lang. At ano pa? Wages payable. Diba? Nasa baba. Wages or salaries payable and accounts payable. Kaya wala tayong non-current liabilities. Okay. Hingga natin. Accounts payable. Nalagay na lang din natin current liabilities. Okay. Then, wages or salaries payable. Magkano wages payable natin? That is wages payable, accounts payable muna, 56,500. And then, wages and salaries payable, magkano? Sa baba. 10,400. Kaya total, total current liabilities, we have 66,900 or total liabilities. Next would be the equity. Owner's equity. Owner's equity. Okay, we have Volfango capital. Ito na yung ending capital niya ha. Then, pag sinabi mong Volfango capital, yan yung ending capital. Gagawa tayo mamaya ng statement of changes in owner's equity. Pero ang konti na lang pala. Ito na lang. Tapos lalagay natin dito yung total liabilities and equity. Okay. Magkano ang capital? Standby lang tayo. Ha? Gagawa tayo ng statement of changes in owner's equity. Yan. Ito natin dito. Statement of changes in owner's equity for the period ended. Period ended. Hindi siya as of. Okay, kasi nag-iiba-iba naman for each period. Okay, so what is our first line item? Pagka statement of changes in owner's equity, palitan pala natin ito. Natin statement of changes in owner's equity. Okay. So, Volfango capital beginning, or pag nakita nyo na 1 or January 1, 2014 o kung ano man, yan yung beginning. Magkano ang beginning capital? We have ito sa worksheet. Volfango capital, this is 615,760, diba? Ayan, nakalagay sa worksheet. Add any investment? Walang investment. Ano lang meron? Meron tayo net income or profit. Hindi, lagyan na lang din natin. Huwag na natin lagyan ng investment kasi wala naman. Sige na nga, para maalala nyo. Muna dapat yung, sige dyan lang. Additional investment. Parang review nyo na rin ito. Okay? Net profit. Magkano net profit? Sa worksheet. How much is the profit? Nandito yan sa baba. Ayan, net income. 73,244. Additional investment is 0. Then, less yung Volfango drawing. Diba? Our personal. And then, less, ano pa? Less loss, if any. Pero kung may net income and profit, add na lang yan. So, how much is the drawing? Sa taas, 17,880. Okay? Kaya, magkano ito? Top and bottom border. We get Volfango capital and plus less 671,124. Yan ngayon yung ending balance ni owner's equity. Okay, 671,124, and that is your total owner's equity. Palitan ko lang yung name, ha? Statement of changes in owner's equity. OE naman. Okay? OE. Wala na tayong cash flow kasi hindi pa naman natin i-discuss. Okay, so that is your total liabilities and equity, current liabilities plus owner's equity. Kaya total current liabilities nakalagay dyan kasi wala ka naman ibang liabilities. Pero kung meron silang non-current liabilities, ang i-add mo ay yung total liabilities. So, take note that the total liabilities and equity is equal to your total assets because assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Okay, so this is now our comprehensive example. So from worksheet, this is our worksheet. Biglang lumiit. Ano nangyari? This is our worksheet. Diba? From this worksheet, we were able to prepare. Nalagyan natin pala ito na. Okay, wala siyang. May total ba dito? So, ito yung bagong total. Okay. So, ito yung ating worksheet. Started with this. Ganito. Worksheet. Wala man lang. Dagdagan natin lang. Started with this worksheet, we had adjusting entries. These are adjusting entries. Then we prepared, of course, cost of goods manufactured. And then we prepared our income statement. And we prepared our balance sheet. And so as with statement of changes in owner's equity. Okay, so I hope that you understand our lesson. This can be, or this can serve as your guide. So, hindi na ako gumawa class ng notes ha. If you kung gusto na yung simplified, yung may notes, refer na lang kayo doon sa book na pinost ko. Pero dito, sa income statement naman natin, dalawa yung ginawa natin, di ba? And kita nyo, pareho lang naman sila. Di ba? Yan. Okay? Kung gusto nyo, tanggalin natin ito. Hindi, wag na. Kaya nyo na yan. Okay. Lagyan natin dito sa medyo taas para hindi nyo makita. Okay. Lipat natin ito. Lagyan natin dito. Okay, so this is our comprehensive example. So if you have questions, feel free to text me. Okay, yeah, so you can use this as your guide. You can also use this in computing for each problem that you'll encounter. Okay, hindi naman tayo nagdadamot. We can use this pag nagka-quiz kayo for exam to facilitate. Mas maganda, mag-calculator kayo para masanay kayo mag-manual. Okay? So, I hope that is clear. Next would be, we'll prepare answers to the problems. Thank you.